Hello and welcome back to This Week in Biotech. Today is edition number 67, covering biotech and pharma news from August 22nd to August 28th, 2025. So I'm back in the US, as you can see, I'm back in my office, but I'll be leaving very soon for a fairly long trip to Europe. So very excited about that, and I'll be just logging in from Europe. Hopefully it doesn't disrupt weekly video updates. And I also have some podcasts planned for before I leave and from Europe, so stay tuned. So the first news I wanted to cover is about Novo Nordisk. The company just entered a multi-year collaboration with Replicate Bioscience, tapping into Replicate's cutting-edge self-replicating RNA platform. The deal could deliver up to $550 million in payments. Importantly, Novo secured exclusive rights to the technology, allowing them to develop and commercialize treatments for obesity, type 2 diabetes, and other cardiometabolic diseases. This gives the company a competitive edge, driven by pressure from rivals like Eli Lilly and looming generic threats to its Wegovy obesity drug. Novo is seeking new innovation to stay ahead. There is a promise that srRNA brings. Unlike traditional mRNA, srRNA acts as a copy machine inside the cell, amplifying the therapeutic signal from even low doses, potentially improving durability and safety. So this venture represents a bold move by Novo Nordisk to deepen its therapeutic reach beyond GLP-1s to potentially become the pioneer of a new modality in metabolic disease treatment. So the next story is, there's yet another drama going on at the CDC. Susan Monarez, the recently Senate-confirmed CDC director, was removed from her role less than a month into the job after reportedly refusing to follow political directives from Health Secretary RFK Jr. and President Trump's administration. Her lawyers say she stood firm on science, declining to fire senior CDC staff or back controversial vaccine policies pushed by the administration. The firing sparked a wave of resignations from other top officials, who all cited growing political interference and threats to scientific integrity. Public health experts warned this shakeup could seriously damage trust in the CDC and weaken the nation's ability to respond to future health emergencies. The next story is from the FDA. The agency has approved updated COVID-19 vaccines from Moderna, Pfizer, and Novavax, but access will be more limited than in previous years. Unlike past rollouts, the vaccines are no longer broadly authorized under emergency use. Instead, full FDA approval now requires that vaccine makers run traditional placebo-controlled trials moving forward. So who qualifies for the vaccines? The new shots are officially approved only for people at higher risk, primarily adults 65 and older, those with serious underlying health conditions, and immunocompromised individuals. Others may still request the vaccine, but they'll need to go through a doctor, and access can be complicated by cost, lack of insurance coverage, and or state restrictions on off-label use. I also wonder, for example, about pregnant women. Pregnant women are at high risk of developing complications from respiratory diseases like flu and COVID. And so I wonder if they qualify or if they have to ask their doctor. So definitely a surprising move. Well, not so surprising given the recent events, but in my opinion, it's a little shocking and potentially dangerous. I just looked into it actually, and some medical groups, including those representing pediatricians and obstetricians, have voiced strong concerns. They warn that without broader CDC recommendations and coverage guarantees, many vulnerable groups like pregnant women, children, and lower-income families could be left without protection as the country heads into a potential winter COVID wave. Critics argue that the rollback of emergency access undermines public health preparedness, just as new variants circulate and vaccine uptake remains low. VorBio and its partner RemeGen have just scored a major win in the fight against IgA nephropathy, or IgAN, in a phase 3 trial conducted in China. Telicicept, an experimental drug action fusion protein, cut protein levels in the urine by 55% at week 39 compared to placebo. That's a strong indicator that the drug is slowing kidney damage. The trial involved 318 patients and was randomized, double-blind, and placebo-controlled. The results were statistically significant. Already approved in China for lupus, RA, and myasthenia gravis, this could be its fourth or fifth approved indication. The 55% drop in protein levels in urine is a sign of disease modification, and the dual target action means that the drug isn't limited to one disease. It taps into a broader autoimmune strategy, making it a pipeline into a product. So as I mentioned, the approval in China is pending, but with partnerships like Bio's global rights deal, this therapy could soon reach markets beyond China. Next, I wanted to touch on an interesting update from ImmunityBio's glioblastoma study. Okay, this small biotech is definitely onto something. They recently reported on a small pilot where they treated 5 patients with recurrent glioblastoma, which is a very aggressive brain tumor notorious for resisting therapy. Honestly, the results were extraordinary. All 5 patients achieved disease control using a chemotherapy-free combo of Anktiva, which is an IL-15 agonist that revives immune killer cells, engineered natural killer cell therapy, and Optune Geo, which is a device delivering electric tumor treating fields. So this is the results. 2 patients had a near complete response, 1 patient responded, and 2 maintained stable disease. Even more remarkable is that all 5 patients whose immune systems were weakened by prior treatments had their lymphocyte counts restored. That's key because radiation and chemo often leaves glioblastoma patients immunocompromised. Glioblastoma is, as I said, among the deadliest cancers. About 12,000 Americans face it annually, and 5-year survival rates are in the single digits. And so these results are really unprecedented. Expert Dr. Simon Kagi called it the most rapid, near complete responses he's ever seen in glioblastoma, adding that it may represent a fundamental advance in therapy. Encouraged, ImmunityBio is already launching a randomized phase 2 trial targeting the same combination in glioblastoma that returns after initial treatment. And this is obviously a big deal because it's a chemotherapy-free approach, leveraging immune reactivation. It offers hope without added toxicity. And even though, it was a small trial, and 5 responders may be a tiny sample, it's still striking because the disease is so resistant. So again, it's just phase 1. The real test will come when we see how these results hold up in a larger controlled studies. That's everything I wanted to cover in the weekly video summary. You can also still listen to the AI generated podcast that usually gets pretty good feedback from our listeners, and they cover everything in each edition in about 10 to 20 minutes.